everyone, you're watching the Santa Monica Beat. I'm Juliette Lamar, and in the news this week, a fatal pedestrian vehicle collision conviction has been upheld, and Santa Monica is searching for the next city manager. So stay tuned. But first, I want to tell you all about our sponsor, Santa Monica College. With more than 90 fields of study, is a leader among California's community colleges in transferring students. There's a seat for you at Santa Monica College, so find your classes today. Our top story, a local surfer, Beck Adler, an 18-year-old local Venice man who has been tracking down some big waves up at Mavericks Beach in Northern California. He agreed to an interview, and we talked all about what it's like to catch a massive wave in this video, so check it out.
So I started surfing when I was like 2 or 3. My dad was pushing me in the waves at Driftwood down in Venice. And that's pretty much where I learned. That's where I caught my first wave, and that's where I grew up surfing. I've been surfing Mavericks for like 3 years now. Going back to that day on the 8th, I caught a wave early, just like a nice fun one on the shoulder, and completed it, rode it to the channel. So that felt good. And then I was like, okay, I really want to get a bigger one. Yeah, that wave came in, and I was in the perfect spot. I was like, okay, here I go. And I whipped it, and I started paddling as hard as I can, and get to my feet and look down the face of this thing. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this wave is so much bigger than I thought. But I was like confident. I was like, I got this. And I airdropped like just a little bit, and just disconnected from my board, and then it's just complete like chaos. You're just getting whipped around, limbs everywhere, like don't know where you are, don't know up or down, and I don't know how big it was. It's always hard to say. I would say it's probably like between 30-40 feet maybe. It felt pretty big. I was pretty scared of big waves when I was young. Didn't really have any desire to surf big waves. I always was like interested in them, but I was always scared too. And I started surfing with Eves Bright a bunch. He's been surfing Venice since he was a kid. So I started surfing with them a bunch, and they kind of showed me like, this is what you have to do if you want to get more comfortable in bigger waves. And so I just kind of listened to them and surf with them on bigger days. And it's a hard thing to explain, because like when you're out there, you're so in your head, everything's telling you no, no, no. And then all of a sudden here comes this wave, and something switches, and you're like, oh, this is the one. And once you hit that switch and turn your spin around and go for the wave, there's really no turning back. What's next? Well, I definitely want to obviously be at Mavericks every swell again next winter, and then for sure Jaws. That's a huge goal of mine. Well, I just want to say thanks to everyone in Venice and at home for supporting me, and thanks to my parents for supporting me, and it feels good to come home and feel the love from it.
And now for what's happening in your neighborhood. The 2nd District Court of Appeals has ruled to uphold the conviction of a DUI driver who killed a pedestrian in the Civic Center parking lot in Santa Monica 4 years ago. The defendant, Abasadi Kadane, was under the influence of marijuana when he struck and killed Donald Thomas Jr. with his vehicle. Kadane was sentenced to 15 years in state prison back in November of 2019. This fatal collision between a vehicle and a pedestrian was the 4th incident that occurred in 2017 out of 8 total for that year. These incidents prompted the City Council to begin redesigning city streets to enhance pedestrian safety, which is still an ongoing project here in Santa Monica. Santa Monica is officially searching for its next city manager. City Council has unanimously entrusted Lamont Ewell of Ralph Anderson Associates to find our next city manager. Ewell has experience managing the cities of Santa Monica, San Diego, and Durham, North Carolina. Ewell will comprise a short list of candidates who then City Council will review and interview and assess before making a final decision. Well, that's all the news we have for you today. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I'm Juliette Lamar, and you take care.